So today's class, I'm gonna dedicate it for the sponsors. Anonymous, Bezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give him Zera Shel Kayama, B'meira B'yameinu, Amen. And for the success of the Moshe family, Bezrat Hashem, Hashem will give them a lot of Hatzlacha. Okay, today we have a super interesting topic. I'm gonna speak about pets, mostly about dogs. Something that is very common to have today. 100 years ago, people had dogs only for, security reasons, and maybe some blind people used to have dogs at home. And today, if you go to Walmart, so you see the dog section, sometimes it's bigger than our sections. Yeah, they have so many things, and clothes, and food, and different toys, and almost every second person or third person in the world has a dog. Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of you also have dogs, and that's why it's a topic we should speak about. We're gonna speak about what the Torah and what's the Kabalah says about dogs, what's the spiritual power of dogs, how they affect us, positive, negative. B'ezrat Hashem, there's a lot what to talk. I hope we're gonna have enough time for everything. We're going to speak a little bit about the history of the dogs. Did the big righteous people, the tzaddikim, the fathers, did they have dogs? Who was the first person in the history that had a dog, and what was the story? What happened in the flood, in the Tevat Noach, the Noach ark with the dog? It's also very interesting to know. And B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to speak about how to what to do when a dog barks on you, right? If you want to stop a dog, Chaz v'shalom, the dog wants to bite you, or barks, that's how you say? Novech? Bark? Yeah, when it barks on you, and you want him to stop. So what do? There's a spiritual way to stop it. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to teach you how to do that today also. And a lot more information. There's so many things we're going to speak about today, B'ezrat Hashem. So, but people are so into raising pets in their house, in our society today. It's something very common, and I know certain people that they have a dog and they feel, okay, I don't need any more, I don't need even, children. I'm okay with the dog, he listens to me, is so loyal, and whatever you tell them, he says yes, he never will, scream at you or do something to you. It's like very comfortable to raise a dog. It's very complicated to raise a child, right? So today people, they like dogs because behemet dogs, they are very loyal. We're gonna speak about that, this characteristic that they have, the loyalty, and why are they like this, and we will see if it's really real. What's the real reason they do it, and they're so loyal to us, and they like us so much. B'ezrat Hashem. But because so many people have dogs today, I think that's a very important topic to know. Also, we're going to speak at the end of the shiur about Halakha, halachically speaking, what to do with dog on Shabbat. Are we allowed to use a dog in different ways? What kind of food, if there is any prohibitions to give to the dog or to not to give to the dog. What do you do after you touch a dog? Do you have to wash your hands? Can you say a bracha while you touch a dog? Different things that a person that keeps Torah and Halakha wants to know when he raises a dog at home. And in general, is this a right thing to do, to have a dog at home or not? B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to discuss those stuff. Dogs are so it's such a common thing in our society. As I said, there was one guy. They went to the Steipeler. Steipeler was the father of Rav Chaim Kanievsky. Rav Chaim Kanievsky is one of the greatest rabbis in our generation, lives in Bnei Brak. So his father was also a big Talmid Chacham, was the head of the generation. And he came to one fellow came to the rabbi and asked him, Rabbi, please, I want you to give a blessing to my dog. He was so connected to his dog, so he was asking a bracha, a blessing from the rabbi to give a blessing for the dog. The rabbi, the Steipeler was a very was a very tough rabbi. There's rabbis that are very, gentle, like light, and there's rabbis that are very tough, they're to the point. So this type of was like that, and he didn't like this type of, what are you asking me to give you a blessing for your dog? You have a family, you have people, there's so many people suffering in the world, and that's what you think about to give a blessing. You come to the rabbi to give a blessing to the dog. But the rabbi didn't want to offend him and to tell him that this is not it's not something you ask a rabbi. So he told him, no problem. Can you give me his mother's name? And then he didn't come back. So that's how we got rid of this guy. But anyways, we see the point is, we so connected to the pets and to the dogs. Some people even says, okay, listen, I want a blessing for the dog. It's also important. And this is another point that I want to touch. That sometimes we put the dog before the human being, before people in our family. And I saw it in few people in my community that they raise dogs for a long time, and they're so connected to them. And sometimes you say, like, it looks like you love them more than your children. And Bezat Hashem, this is something we have to think and say, wow, sometimes that's really correct, and that's not normal. So Bezat Hashem, today we're going to understand why we love dogs so much. So let's start with history a little bit, okay? Chazal, Chachamenu Zichronam Livracha. Our rabbis, they write in different places in the Talmud, in the Zohar. We're going to speak a lot about Zohar today, like this is our Zohar class. But also I'm going to add share with you some ideas from the Talmud, from Midrashim, from other sources. It says in the Midrash that the first person in the world that had a dog, it's the son of Adam. Adam is the first person, Adam and Eve. He had in the beginning two sons, Cain and Hevel. And we all know the story about Cain and Hevel, that Cain killed his brother Hevel. And Hevel was the first person that actually had a dog. He had a dog. And the dog that Hevel had, he was so loyal to Hevel. And it says that the reason he had this dog, because Hevel, he was a shepherd. He had a lot of, sheep and cows. And when you're a shepherd, you need a dog to secure, different, wolves and different other things that can eat them. So he had the dog for that reason, and he was very connected to the dog. When Cain killed Hevel, so the dog was so shocked, and he liked his owner so much, he didn't move from his body, and he was protecting him from different birds and animals that wanted to eat his meat. So the dog was so loyal to him that Midrash said that he was protecting, because they didn't know back then that a person has to be buried. When Cain killed Hevel, that was the first murder in the history. The Midrash even say that he didn't know where the soul coming out. So they say that he took a knife or a sword, and he just did like 300 holes in his body, because it says maybe the soul is gonna come out from that side or from this side. He didn't really understand what's happening, and that's why according to Halakha, a person has to be buried. If he's not buried on time, the soul suffering. Yeah. Also the blood, every piece of blood has to be buried. That's why there's an organization in Israel they called Zaka. Zaka, what they do, Chaz v'Shalom, those who lived in Israel, they know that the Arabs, they were bombing all the time, right? So sometimes when there's a bomb in a place, and unfortunately what's happening, so different pieces of bodies, and blood everywhere. So those people, that's a mitzvah, it's an organization that they do a mitzvah, they just collect all the pieces, so every small piece even gonna be buried, because the Zohar says it's very, very important that the body gets a rest. That rest is very important for the soul. That's why you have to collect all the pieces and the blood and to put it on the ground. That's very, very important spiritually. So that's what the dog did. The dog was kind of protecting the body until someone will come and Adam HaRishon will know that this has happened and it will bury him. So the dog did a big mitzvah. So we're gonna see soon that the dogs, they did a lot of they did a lot of kindness to the Jewish nation, and that's why one of the things that the Torah says, the Torah writes, that we give the dog every non-kosher food that we have. The first priority is the dog. So let's say you shecht I don't know, a sheep, a lamb, you want to eat a lamb, and it's not kosher. Something happened, the knife was not okay, or you see that the lamb is not kosher, there was a problem in the lungs or something. So terefa basadeh lakelev tashlichun oto. The pasuk says if you see that it's not kosher, the first priority to give that meat to is to the dog. Yeah, and even there's a mitzvah. Even if you can take this meat and you can sell it to the non-Jews, right? They can eat it. They don't have rules of kashrut, of kosher. He says you can give it, you can make some money on it, but if you give it to the dog, you make a mitzvah. So the question is, why we have such a mitzvah? And Torah is very kind, is very nice. The Torah has a lot of rules protecting animals. Yeah, I think I'm sure that Judaism brought this, the mercy that people have today for animals. Yeah, it's all from Judaism. In the Torah, we say every day we read Shema Yisrael, the whole 3 paragraphs of Shema Yisrael. One of the paragraphs we say, "V'natati esev besadcha libemtecha ve'achalta ve'savata." Hashem says, and I gave a grass in your field, to your animal, and for you, so you eat and you will be satisfied. So the Torah says, if you look at the words, Hashem says, I gave grass, I gave the growings in your field for your animal and for you, so you will be satisfied. Chachamim say, from here we'll learn that before you eat, you're not allowed to eat until you give the animal. If you have a pet in your house, according to the Halakha, to the Jewish law, you have to make sure that the dog eats his dogli or whatever. Yeah, that's how you say it in English, dogli? No, that's the food in Hebrew. That's how we say it.
Dog's food.
Yeah, you give the dog's food to the dog or to the cat or whatever you have at home first, and only after that you eat. And if you ate and after that you gave them, you made a sin. So you see how much mercy and how much attention and love and care Judaism thinks about animals. It's very, very important. So the question is, but why the dogs? Why, if I have a non-kosher food in my house, the first priority is to give it to the dog, and it becomes a mitzvah. That's what Rabbeinu Bachya writes. It's a mitzvah. So there's a few reasons. The simple reason that the Gemara brings down that we are grateful for the dogs. We have a certain gratefulness for them. What did they do? When we were in Egypt, so there was 10 makot, the 10 plagues? No. Yeah, the 10 plagues. Eser makot. And the last one was makat bechorot, that all the firstborns of the Egyptian passed away in one night. Now the Gemara says that if there's a plague in a certain city, how can you know that there's a plague? How do you know that Malach HaMavet, the evil, is like killing people? If you hear the dogs screaming. Why? Because the dogs, they have a certain vision that we don't have. They can actually see bad angels. They can see the evil. If the evil Chas v'Shalom does a plague, people dying one after the other from a certain sickness, it means the evil is at that city. The dogs feel it. By the way, also dogs feel the earthquake first. That's what the Gemara says. Today we know that scientists, they also notice that, right? But the dogs, before the earthquake starts, the first one to know is the dog. So if you see the dogs run away, you should run away with them. They feel it. they have a lot of things. The dogs, the Gemara says, Masechet Baba Metzia, that the dogs, their smell sense is so strong they can smell shalosh tfachim mitachat lama, 3 tfachim. Tefach is 8 centimeters, so 8 times 3 is 24. 24 centimeters under the ground, they can still smell. Yeah, the Gemara brings it because sometimes you have chametz, right? And chametz can be sometimes also under the ground, so sometimes they used to have to bring dogs to smell if there's chametz or there's no chametz on Pesach. So that's the Gemara 2,000 years ago tells us that that's one of the sense that the dogs has. They know the earthquake is coming. They have very good smell, and they also see malach hamavet. And what they do when they see malach hamavet, the evil, they scream. Yeah, they like do the ooh, like the dogs. That's how they scream, right? And so they say what happened is that the dogs at the time when all the firstborn passed away, so malach hamavet, the evil was in Egypt, but at that day they didn't scream. They didn't scream. So the Egyptian would not feel that something happening. And that's one of the reasons God says, because you didn't scream and you let the evil do his job, and because the Egyptian, they were magicians, they could do different things to protect themselves, but because they didn't know that there's a plague, that they're gonna die, because the dogs didn't scream, so that's why we are grateful for the dogs and we give them. There was another reason also in Egypt. The Gemara says that when we went out of Egypt, the Egyptian dogs, they taught them that if a slave runs away, they run away after him, right? So the dogs, they were the security guards in Egypt. And you can see if you go to Egypt and you look at all the pictures that they have in the pyramids and all those, you see all the history and how many dogs they had. The Zohar even says that there's an avodah zarah. There was an idol worshipping of one king of Egypt, that he was a human body and a head of a dog. Yeah, until today they have this picture in Egypt, and that was one of the idols of Egypt, because we're gonna see soon that the dogs, they symbolize something very negative in one way. We're gonna see that according to the Zohar B'ezrat Hashem soon. So in Egypt, when we went out, the dogs, all the nation ran away. So the dogs need to bark and to run away after us, and then the Egyptian will do something. But they were very quiet and they let us go like in a good mood, without all those barks and everything. Because Am Yisrael, they were slaves, they were very sensitive. Imagine like thousands or even millions of dogs, they're gonna bark on you that you run away from Egypt. That's gonna be a big shock. So they say that the dogs, they didn't scream, they didn't bark at that time when we went out of Egypt, and that's why we have to be grateful. The Torah teaches to be grateful even to animals. If an animal did something good to you, you have to be grateful to all the animals in this section. Yeah, we learn it from Moshe Rabbeinu. We learn it from Moshe when he did those plagues, the 10 plagues in Egypt. So Moshe had a stick. Yeah, the history of that stick, it's very interesting. We need a whole lecture just for the history of the stick. And the stick was a very magic stick. It's a stick from Adam HaRishon. Yeah, it was passed to Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef in Egypt. Paro took the stick when Yosef passed away, and he gave it to Yitro, because Yitro was one of the advisors of Paro. Yitro put it in his backyard and nobody could take it out. And then when Moshe came, he was the only one that could take it out. And then he says, that's why you're going to marry my daughter, because you're the only one that took it out. And from that second, he had the stick. So that stick, he did all those plagues with the stick. When Hashem tells him to do the first makkah, the first plague, the dam, the blood in the Nile. So he says, take the stick and hit the Nile. So there's going to be blood. So, but Hashem tells Moshe, give the stick to Aharon and tell Aharon to hit the Nile, so that everything is going to be blood. The question that is asked, well, Hashem, what's the problem of Moshe doing it? Moshe is the guy. Why you tell him to give to Aharon and Aharon has to hit the Nile? So Rashi explains, and the Gemara explains, the real reason is Hashem says, Moshe, you can't hit the Nile. The Nile saved your life when you were a baby. Your mom put you on the Nile, and this Nile saved your life. How can you hit a place that gave you something? That's not grateful. That's not Jewish. So that's why we hear that even an anonymous, something that is not moving, you have to be grateful. And Kal v'chomer for sure for a dog. So that's why the non-kosher food that we have, first of all, first priority we give to the dogs. The Zohar brings another reason. The Zohar brings another reason that is not brought down in the other sources why we are grateful for the dogs. The reason that the Zohar brings is we are grateful because in the last plague, Makat Bechorot, when all the firstborn of the Egyptian passed away, they passed away at home. But then all the dogs went to the houses and they took the dead bodies of the firstborn of the Egyptian and they brought it to the main street. So everybody said the miracle what happened. Because nobody saw the miracle. Everything was at every house had something happened there. But so everybody can see the power of God and the power of the Jewish nation. The dogs themselves, they went and they brought all the dead bodies to the main street, and that's how the name of Hashem was raised, was bigger, because of the dogs. So we have to be grateful for the dogs. That's the Zohar reason why we give the non-kosher food to the dogs. So now this is another part in the history that we see dogs did. Another thing that happened, as I said in the beginning of the class, is in the Noach Ark. We all know the story of Noach. Yeah, you call him Noah in English. I call him Noach. It's more Noach. Noach, it's comfortable in it. Yeah. So Noach, he was saved from the flood, and Hashem told him, you take every couple of every animal, a male and a female, from the not kosher animals, and from the kosher animal you take 7 from each. So, and he brought all of them to the ark. Now, there was some rules in the ark. They had rules. One of the rules, first of all, there was 3 levels, like 3 floors. Thank you. Forgot the word. 3 floors to the ark. The basement, let's call it, the lower level. The lower level was the garbage place, because they ate. They have to eat. He has to feed all the animals. So that was the garbage place. And which is a very, one of the rabbis asked, why you make a whole floor? It was very tense there. There was no space. So just threw the garbage outside. There's a flood outside. Everybody's dying anyways. Just throw it outside and have another floor. Leave comfortable. But no, Hashem says you have to have a whole floor for garbage. Why? Because Hashem says you can't throw things out of the window, because that's not proper. That's not right to the world of God. And you are like, put your garbage outside on the land, This is not a right way of behaving. So Hashem wanted to teach Noach, to keep the nikayon, the cleanness of the land. So you have to have a place for garbage. Yeah. So they had a whole place for garbage. The second floor was Noach, was the animals floor, and the last floor was Noach and his and his family. So they say that Noach, he was taking care of them and when giving food, and they had some rules in the teva. One of the rules was asur b'tashmish hamita. There was not allowed to have intimacy in the ark, not for human being and not for animals. was a rule. Why? Hashem says, how can you enjoy life when everybody is dying? That's not acceptable. So all the time, the whole year that they were in the ark, there was a prohibition for that thing. Huh? So that was all, we have to make a whole class about that, but you think animals are dumb, but animals are very smart, and actually there's a way to talk to animals. King Solomon, for example, he knew the language of the animals, right? Now animals, we're going to see soon, most of the animals, it's a reincarnation. They have a soul inside. Right? We're going to see soon, if a person does certain sins, sometimes he can be reincarnated in a dog. We're going to see what type of a sin it's going to be. But if you have the way, if you know the knowledge, like Noach knew how to talk to the animals, you actually can understand them. I'll tell you more than that. The animals know more than us in certain things. For example, we don't know our reincarnation. Like, we don't know our past life. Each one of us, we were born, and we don't know who we were. Maybe you were, I don't know, Rabbi Akiva, and you don't know. You don't know who are you. You can find it out if you go to a big Kabbalist or by learning Torah, you can find out different things. But regularly, most of the people, almost all the people in the world, they don't know who were they in the past life. Animals, they know. If you see a dog looking at you, he knows why he is there. And he knows what he wants from you and what kind of fixing he needs you to do to him. Because he knows if he were a human being in past life. Any animal knows. Animal knows, human being doesn't know. So there's a lot of things that the animal knows, and there's a language to talk to them, which Noach knew, and that was a prohibition. No intimacy in the ark. 3 species didn't listen to that. Didn't listen to that rule. Who were they? One of them is the Orev, the crew. The crow, crow. The crow. The second is the dog, and the third, it was a human being. It was the son of Noach, Ham. So Ham, the crow, and the dog, they didn't listen to that rule, and they had intimacy in the ark. Because of that, they got a punishment. That's what the Midrash says. I'm talking to you 2,000 years ago. It's written in the Kabalah. And the Midrash say that they got Midrash Tanchuma. It said that they got a punishment because of that. It's not a punishment, it's a result of the thing that they did. And so Ham, Laka be'oro, he got a punishment in his body. He became black. He was not black before. His sons became black. So that's a punishment. And the second one, which is and not just black, he became black and he had a certain disease in the skin. Yeah. The second one is the crow, who according to some opinions also became black. He was white in the beginning, but the crow got a punishment that he is different than all the other animals and birds in the world. When he has intimacy, he does it through the makor. Beak? How you spell it? Okay. To the beak, yeah. Yeah. So the crow, he's different than everybody else. Yeah, like when they kiss each other, that's when the seed coming out and they can have a child. That's how it is. The Gemara writes it 2,000 years ago. Very interesting. And that's called a punishment. I don't know why it's a punishment, but maybe that's not. I don't. Maybe they don't enjoy it or something. Something there is not okay. And the last one is the dog. The dog got a punishment. The Midrash says nikshar. Mazen nikshar. When he has intimacy, he can be stuck. The only animal that can be stuck in, like, the male and the female can stack to each other, and it's happened most of the times. I know because I lived in Israel, and in my neighborhood there was like 60 dogs going over. In Israel there's a lot of dogs. They don't have an owner. So you see those stuff happening every day. So that's a big punishment that the dog had, and until today. So that's why that's a very interesting also thing that we can see that the dog from the beginning of history was always, kind of doing things that are, from one second was very positive, as we saw, like the dogs, we are very grateful for them, they did something for the Jewish nation, but from the other side we see that the dogs were not behaving well. And now I want to get into that section of what the Zohar says about the spiritual power of the dog. Because the Zohar is like, he's even exaggerating, describing how the dog is a very impure animal. And he says the dog is klipat Amalek. Amalek, we know it's the impure nation. Amalek, the first nation that wanted to kill the Jewish nation, and they are the source of impurity in the world. So they said the dog in the animals has the power of Amalek. So we see that the dog has a certain impure power. And the Gemara says that dogs are azepanim. Azepanim, from all the animals, they are the most chutzpanim. Chutzpah, I don't know if there's a word in English for chutzpah. Chutzpah means they have no... Obnoxious? Obnoxious? Yeah, they are very rude. They whatever they want, they do, and they don't care about others. So azepanim, that's something that a dog have, and that's why also this is another reason that the Zohar describe the dog as an impure animal, and it doesn't mean that we have to stay away from it, right? We're going to see soon that you can have a dog at home if you have the right reason, if you have the right dog, because there's different types of dog. We're going to see which type of dog you can't have in your house, right? But we see that a dog has a certain power of impurity, and that's why when a person touches a dog, actually every animal, when you touch a dog, but especially a dog, if you want to make a blessing on a fruit or on even water, mention the name of Hashem, you have to wash your hands. You don't have to do netilat yadayim with a cup, but at least to wash your hands or to put something, liquid to clean your hands before you say the blessing, because after touching something that has a certain impurity, that's not a good idea. That's not right to say a blessing and mention the name of Hashem. We see in the Gemara, Masechet Pesachim, on page 118, says something very interesting about the dog. He say that that a person is not allowed to go in between two dogs. So if you go and there's a dog from your right and dog from your left, that's a spiritual danger. It says that it has a ruach ra'ah, it brings a bad spirit and can cause a spiritual danger. So that's why, those people that have two dogs, so make sure that they are, just don't be in between. They can be in front, they can be in the back, but don't be in between. That's spiritually not right. Yes, Lonen. It's only because it's you. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
No, it's about a cat. I remember when I was in Israel, when I was little, my cousin, we saw like a black cat. So she told me to spit.
That's not right.
No,
that's, I don't know, maybe a Kafkazian thing. Yeah, I don't know. That's not from the Torah. No. There's no problem with black cats in the Torah. Yeah.
If you walk with somebody and the person has two dogs, and one dog goes on the other side of you, is that still considered standing between two dogs?
If you have a dog from your right and a dog from your left, that's considered you as in between dogs. It doesn't matter if the dog was there before or he came now. So if you see such a thing, you just step. And now the Gemara says that you should not be in the middle of two dogs, and also the Gemara, one second, I want to read you the Gemara, I wrote it down. כלב לא ממצע ולא מתמצע. שלא ילך כלב בין שתי אנשים ולא שני כלבים וביניהם איש. Oh, so the same thing is the opposite. So two dogs from your right and from your left, so you are in the middle, that's not good. And also the opposite. If there's two people and there's a dog between them, that's also not good. Okay? Yeah, so this is rules for people that they walk with the dog outside because that can cause a certain spiritual danger. Yeah, sakana, ruach ra, bad spirit.
What kind of spiritual danger?
There's different types of ruach ra'a. Ruach ra'a, it's like a negative energy. A negative energy that can come to you when such a thing happens. Yeah, I think the reason is because when you have two dogs, it's like kind of too much of a negative energy on you. So that's why. By the way, there's also a rule, not because of impurity, but there's also a rule if you have two women. So don't go not in between. Don't pass in between. If they talk to each other, or they face each other, don't pass in between. Why? Not because women, chas v'shalom, the women are holy, but there's a certain power, spiritual power, that it can cause you forget things. Yeah, you lose your memory. Yeah, so that's why that's also a woman, if she pass in between two men, the same thing. So that's certain spiritual rules that it's going to take a long time to explain them how they work, but this is something we should be careful to not do. Those stuff written in Kabalah books, in the Torah, this is not like those emunot felot. There's certain things like the black cats that people invent, I had once, I think I did 2 lectures in Hebrew about all those emunot felot, all the things that are not right and the things that are right, and all those beliefs that people believe. If you're going to sit in the corner of the table, you're not going to have money, or you're not going to get married, or stuff like that, this is not right. If you pass the keys from the, from the table, right, from one side to the table, from the other side of the table, so something is going to happen. That's also not right. There's a lot of things that are not right, but there are things that are right. I think we spoke about, before you go to a trip, we had a whole lecture about trips, if you remember. So you don't brush your shoes before you go away for a long trip. Why? It's a sakana. It can cause a certain danger, and I explained the whole thing why in that lecture. B'ezrat Hashem. Yeah.
Passing the knife.
What?
Passing the knife. Like dinner table. Passing.
Pass the knife. There's also no problem. But let's keep the questions for the end, because I have so many material to teach you about dogs, and then the dog's gonna be mad at me. So B'ezrat Hashem, let's do it. Okay. Okay, so by the way, so we said that the dogs have a certain impure power in them. By the way, we can realize that it's written in Kabbalah books that the dogs automatically, when you go out with them, they're gonna go to your left side. Always, if you give them the choice if to be in your right side or your left side, they're gonna go to your left side. Why? Because in the left side there's more impurity. Always in the left side, the Tehillim, we have Mizmor, the chapter 91. Ipol mitzitcha elef urvava miyaminecha. It says that we have a certain energies in the right side of the body and in the left side of the body. And the energies that we have in the left side of the body, there's more negative energy in the left side of the body. And that's why the dog is more connected to the negative powers. That's why you're going to come to your left side. Yeah, you can check it at home. Just give him to decide what side he wants to go, and you're going to go to the left side. You're going to see why, because he's connected to the negative powers. He's Amalek. That's why you can realize by that. Okay? After. Okay? Let's do it. Remember the question. Okay, so let's let's see another point about dog that is very important. Now, we said there's a lot of good things about dogs. We said we are very grateful for the dogs. Also, dogs are very loyal. They're the most loyal pet. They're gonna do everything for you. Mamash, everything for their owner. They will kill people for you. There's stories about dogs that saved their owner's life. You know, there's many stories, and that's right. But the Zohar say the way the dog barks, the voice that comes out of their mouth, it's hav, right? Hav, hav, hav. It's hey bet. Hav in Aramaic is give me. And the Zohar says the characteristic of the dog is give me, give me, give me, give me. The animal that wants for herself more than any other animal, doesn't think about others at all, just about herself, is the dog. Now you're gonna see that he's very loyal to you. Why? Because he needs you. He knows you are the guy that gives him food. So he's gonna do anything for you, mamash, anything for you, because he knows that you give him, and he needs you. That's why the Torah says, don't think the dog is like, Nachon, kelev, the word kelev, kaf lamed bet, in Hebrew every word has a meaning. Kelev shekulo lev, kaf lev, everything is heart, he's all heart. You see, he's like, I'll do for you this and that, whatever you tell him it does, but it's not coming from a very, very pure place. It's coming from a selfish place. You see people also that behave like dogs. They will do anything for you, not because they are good, because they know they need you. You know, those people that are always, do everything for the rich guys, they can't... They always surround them and what you want, yes, yeah. Why? Not because you like him and you think he's a great person. No, I need this guy, and that's why I'm doing all this. That's the dog behavior. That's his lifestyle. And that's why the Torah says the dog is in a way symbolize the bad sides, the bad forces. Why? Because what's good and bad? You remember we spoke about that once. It's very important to know. The Zohar described the Bala Sulam. Rav Ashlak says that clearly all the time, that if we want to describe what's good and what's bad in life, good is anything you give. That the purpose of that thing is giving, we can call it good. Anything that the purpose of it is to take, just take for taking, that's called bad. And we said that in few lessons we spoke about this thing, that even when you, let's say, drink water, if you drink water just for yourself, it's a bad action. It's a selfish thing. We were created in this world to be like God. God is the perfect giver. We have to be like Him. When I do something only for myself, I'm selfish. The more you're selfish, the more bad you are. The less you're selfish, the better you are, the good you are. So when I do things like normal things in life, I buy a Gucci suit. There's no problem. According to Halakha, you're allowed to buy a Gucci suit. Doesn't say any place in the Torah that I'm not allowed to buy a Gucci suit. But why do you buy the Gucci suit? For yourself? Because you want people to say, wow, good, you're so nice, you're so beautiful. To you, if this is the reason, that's a bad action. You are bad. I'm sorry to say, I know we all do that, but in that place, I'm bad. But 1 second, I can buy the Gucci suit and have in mind, but 1 second, you know why I buy it? I buy it because Hashem says on Shabbat, you have to honor Shabbat. And I want to show God, and I want to show all the people that Shabbat is more important than any other thing. So in a weekday, I just wear a very simple suit, but on Shabbat I wear a Gucci suit so everybody see how I respect Shabbat. So I don't do it just for myself. I have a certain reason for others. You eat a steak in the restaurant. If you just eat the steak because, wow, it's tasty, it's a bad action. You just do it for yourself to feel better, to feel good. It's selfish. But when you say, no, you know what, I eat steak because I need a good mood, then when I eat steak, I'm going to be satisfied and I'm going to have power because it's food, and I'm going to be more happy, and then when I'm going to come home, I'm going to be a better father. I'm going to be more positive because I just had to relax. I relaxed a little bit in the restaurant. So that's taking for giving. That's a good thing.
Can you also say that you're elevating the neshama?
Right, that's another thing. I eat the steak but this is a very hard thing to do. Who is going to eat a ribeye steak to elevate the soul that is in the steak? Like, so nice to say it, but really that's why you go to the restaurant. That's not the way I go to the restaurant. But something that is more easy. Yeah, I go. Why? Because first of all, I need food to serve God. I need food to be a good father, to be a good mother. I need food to help people. So why do you need steak? You can just eat bread. No, listen, steak. Yeah, and you're serious. You're real about that. Yeah, steak. I'm not eating steak every day, but once in a while, for a good mood, to feel that I went to the restaurant and stuff like that. Yeah, it's good if I take it for giving. So the dog is the opposite of that. The dog, whatever he thinks, is just taking. And that's why we have to be careful to not be like dogs. That's why dogs, it's not a good example for us in this place. Now let's go to the question, if we said positive things about dog, and we said that there's also very negative things about dogs spiritually, is it good to raise a dog in my house? Now, when we get to Halakha, the Gemara brings down that there's certain types of dogs that we're not allowed to have. It's called kelev ra, a bad dog. What's a bad dog? A dog that causes other people be scared. Dog, chas v'shalom, that does bad things to other people, bite them, scare them, barks on them very, and this type of dog, the Gemara says, you're not allowed to have. Why? Because you cause damage. And the Gemara even brings a story with a lady that she went to her friend for, they wanted to bake bread together. Let's say a challah baking. They went to a challah baking. And then she came to her for a challah baking, and she had a dog. And she was pregnant also. And she went to the house, and the dog started to bark, but he was like a very, bad dog, was barking very scared. And then the owner, the husband of the friend, he says, don't worry, the dog doesn't have teeth. It's like, it's not going to do nothing to you. Everything is okay. And she got so scared because the dog was not kashul. It was not...
On the leash.
Yeah, he was not on the leash. So he got so scared that something... And even though he told her, he doesn't have teeth. Don't worry, he's not going to bite you. But then she said to him, it's too late. I think that I just had an miscarriage. And that's what really happened. And the Gemara says that dogs can cause miscarriages. And that's why if you have such a dog that can scare people, you basically damage, you kill even a baby. So that's why those types of dogs, it's not allowed to have. So the Gemara says, but 1 second, but if I do it for security reasons, like heaven, they say that Yakobov, our father, had 60,000 dogs. Yeah, he was very rich and he had a lot of, fields and things. He had 60,000 dogs. And Yosef and the brothers, we're going to read it soon in Parashat HaShavua, they went with the dogs to the field, and when they wanted to kill Yosef, one of the ways in the beginning that they thought about is to send the dog to kill them. So they had dogs. So you see, they did have dogs, our fathers, that tzaddikim. But what's the reason you have the dog? You have the dog for security, for money, for parnasa, for income. That's what Yaakov did. So that's okay, as much as the dog is on its leash, has to be tied, because if not, you can cause damage to other people. You can cause miscarriages for ladies, chas v'shalom. And people, I know, my wife once told me that when she was coming from school, going from school home, so the neighborhood she lived in Israel, they had a lot of dogs there. And she was, every day she was scared from the dogs. She was doing a whole big circle, wasting another 10-15 minutes of her life every day because of the dogs. Because the people at that neighborhood, they were walking with the dogs without the leash. And she was scared of that. So those people, they caused her so much, waste of time and scared. And that's not right. That's not human. So that's why the Gemara says we have to be very sensitive. And if we buy a dog, we have to make sure the dog doesn't cause damage to other people. If it doesn't cause damage, have a dog. No problem. Halachically, nobody said that this is not allowed. You just have to know some rules. Sometimes it will be even a good thing to have a dog at home. For example, if you have a child that, certain children, especially in Canada, they are very bored and they don't have self-confidence and they need someone, let's say they are alone, or sometimes all the other brothers and sisters are older and they got married or something like that. They need, to take care of something. They need a friend. Sometimes it's not always, they find a good friend. So a dog, a lot of time, can help emotionally, or a certain child that has certain problems in studying, or, he can't behave. Sometimes the doctors would tell you, bring a dog, and you will see that he will start to give and to take care of someone. This is for therapy. That's excellent. In those cases, that's a good thing. Someone that is blind, chas v'shalom, he needs a dog. Even the Rav Moshe Feinstein in America, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, they asked him a question: if a blind person wants to come with a dog to a class of Torah, he wants to come to a class, he wants to come to the synagogue to pray, can he come with a dog? The dog allowed to enter the synagogue or not allowed to enter the synagogue? So Rav Moshe Feinstein said he is allowed to enter the synagogue, but you have to make sure that the dog will stay close to the door. He will stay close to the door so the dog would not interrupt the class or the other people that are praying. But he is allowed to, because there's a good reason to have the dog. Dogs are not bad. They have a certain impure power in them, but they are not bad, chas v'shalom. That's why if you need and you have a good reason to have the dog, and the dog doesn't cause any other damage to people, you know how to keep him, that doesn't cause, you are allowed to have a dog halachically according to the Torah. And if not, that's not a good idea. Now, I want to speak about the reincarnation that we said. Sometimes we see dogs, and the dog looks at you, and sometimes you look at the dog also, and you think he knows something I don't know. He's like looking at me like this, like the dog knows something that I don't know. And that's really true. As I told you before, the dogs know their past life. They know who they were. And they even know sometimes a dog barks on a certain person because he has a certain negative energy in him. The dogs see malach hamavet, they see bad angels. So if you see a dog that barks on someone like very, very hard, that sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes it can be because of a big sin of a person that the person did. And the dogs see that on his forehead. Because the Zohar says when you do certain bad sins, this energy of the sin stay 40 days on you. For example, basar v'chalav, eating milk and meat, which is a very, very, it's a big sin according to Torah. Mixing meat and milk together, cheeseburger and all those stuff, that's caused a big damage to the soul. And 40 days, this bad energy doesn't come off. And even the Zohar says if you're gonna have kids at those 40 days, the kid's gonna have bad character after a person eats milk and meat. I'm talking about Jews. So the dog feels that. Sometimes it can bark on you because of that feeling that it feels. You feel that bad energy. By the way, if a dog barks on you and you want them to stop, there's a name you can have in mind. When you have this name in mind, boom, it's not gonna bark anymore. The name is a name of a certain angel called Keruviel. Chaf, Reish, Vav, Bet, Yud, Aleph, Lamed. Keruviel. This name, you don't have to say it. I said it just because I wanted you to know, but it's not always good to say it. Just have it in mind, you know? Have this name in mind. When the dog barks, you have this name in mind. The dogs feel this, because when you have in mind this name, the angel comes. This power of that angel comes to you. The dogs see it, stop to bark. Yeah. Another way, there's a pasuk you can say. There's a pasuk in Torah that talks about dogs. The pasuk says, "Ulechol bnei Israel lo ichratz kelev leshono." Yeah, it's a pasuk that talks about the dogs that were not saying nothing, were not screaming in Egypt. You remember we talked about that? So, so if you say this pasuk one time, a few times, or especially when you take your thumb and you put it inside the other four fingers, and then you say this pasuk, or even without saying this pasuk, you say, "Ulechol bnei Israel lo ichratz kelev leshono," and you show him like this, the dog will stop barking on you. I tried it a few times. Huh?
Can you repeat that?
The pasuk,
Yeah.
ולכל בני ישראל לא יחרץ כלב לשונו. Means that if you are Jewish and you're holy, the dog would not bark on you and take his tongue out on you, right? ולכל בני ישראל, ולכל בני ישראל חץ כלב לשונו. At that time, put your thumb inside the four fingers. By the way, we do the same thing in Havdalah. Why? Because the thumb symbolizes also power of impurity. When you are covering it, means you're covering the impure power in you, and the dog doesn't have a reason to bark on you. So that's kelev leshono. Yeah. Now, by the way, there's another interesting thing we learned from our rabbis. Arizal lived 500 years ago. He was a big Kabbalist. The Arizal was saying that according to the dogs you meet when you come out of the house, you can know if you're going to have a successful day or if you're going to be, you're going to be successful in what you're going for. So he says if you go out from the house and you see a dog, that sometimes the dog is kind of like bowing down to you. You know this thing that the dog does, like bow down to you, face you and bow down to you. Yeah, he doesn't really bow down. He just kind of this is relaxed, stretch himself, right? Yeah, yoga. But if it does it to you when you come out of the house and you see the dog doing it in front of you and face you, that's mean the way you go now, you're going to be very successful and it's going to be a good thing happening to you. Let's say if it's a business or it's a trip. But if you go out of the house and you see a dog, after you leave, you see a dog that his back is face you. So that means that the way you go or the business or whatever you're gonna do is according to the luck is not gonna be so successful. So you have to pray. Make sure on the way you pray better, or sometimes even don't go. Just stay at home if you can cancel it or whatever. That's Arizal in one of his books, Ruach HaKodesh, says that the dogs feel those type of things, and you can see that when you see a dog in front of you when you come out of the house. Now, another idea I want to share with you about dogs that is very important is some halachot, some rules of a person that has a dog, according to the Torah, how to behave with a dog. So we said, of course, food you give him before you eat. That's very important. You have to make sure the dog doesn't suffer if he needs to go to outside, to the washroom, whatever. Yeah, you have to take him and don't make him suffer. We see a story in the Gemara that one of the big rabbis, Rabbi Nasi, the one that wrote the Mishnah, he was not sensitive for certain animals, and he got a big punishment for that, like 13 years of isurim, of like a sickness, that he was very suffering from that because he was not sensitive to animals. So until he fixed that problem, and then it went away. So we see we have to be very sensitive. If you have a dog, that's why I tell people, if you don't need the dog really for the reason we said before, or for a good reason, or for an emotional reason for yourself, right? For don't have a dog, because you take a big responsibility on an animal, and if you make them suffer, that's on your shoulders, and that can cause like bad things to you. So that's why it's better to not have it if you know that you're not responsible. People, like, let's say your kid says, Abba, I want a dog, and you know that it's not going to take care of the dog, it's not going to give him food on time, it's not going to take him outside. It's better you tell them, no, I don't allow you, and you don't have to tell them why, but for the dog, don't give such a person this responsibility to have any pet, not just dog, even any birds that or some. Today we have so many different pets. People are growing in their house, even a mouse. And any pet, if you know you're not responsible, Chas v'shalom, they can really suffer because of you. Don't do it to yourself. That's a suggestion. Now, one of the rules we should know is food. To give food to the dog, you're allowed to give him non-kosher food. According to Halakha, like we said, you're allowed to give him kosher food. Someone asked me, can I buy a piece of pork and give it to the dog? I think that's not a good idea, because when you go to the store and you buy a piece of pork and your friends see you that you buy a piece of pork, that's not going to be good news for the city, And it's marita ayin, people doesn't know that you buy it for the dog. So if you can buy him kosher food, make him kosher, that's the best. But if somehow you got certain meat or something that is not kosher, for sure there's no problem to give it to the dog. There's one thing that you're not allowed to give to the dog. This is something that contains milk and meat together, mixed. Yeah, if you have a certain food that contains milk and meat, or even if you cooked something and by mistake milk and meat together and you want to give it to the dog, or a friend, gave you cheeseburger and you say, like, what I'm going to do with this? It's not kosher and it's milk. If it's milk and meat together, you're not allowed to give it even to the dog, because not kosher food we're not allowed to eat, but we're allowed to have enjoyment from not kosher food. So let's say, for example, if you have a non-Jew friend and you want to sell the not kosher meat to your friend, you're allowed to do that. But if you have something that contains milk and meat together, you can't even sell it. You can't. It's not allowed to have even an enjoyment from milk and meat. It's mixed. So even to give it to the dog, it's a type of enjoyment. And now I have to give him less food. So that's not allowed. So that's one thing. On Pesach, we have to check that the food that we give to the dog doesn't contain bread, chametz, right? Because we own it. And you're not allowed to own on Pesach any chametz. If the food of the dog has chametz, you're not allowed to have it at home. That's why the COR, the consulate of kashrut in Canada, and every city, right, they give guidance which ones are kosher for Passover, which one are not. You have to see that doesn't contain any flour or any wheat or barley, which is called chametz on Pesach. So that's another thing that a person that has a dog has to make sure before Pesach that it doesn't give him a chametz. On Shabbat, the dog's called muktzeh. We're not allowed to touch the dog on Shabbat and to move him from side to side on Shabbat, unless there's a way to go out with the dog. If you don't touch the dog and you have the leash, yeah. So that's the way you can go out with him. But to touch the dog, to put it on you on Shabbat, that's a problem of muktzeh, and not just the dog, any pet. So that's why it's considered Chilul Shabbat miderabanan, a rabbinical Chilul Shabbat, which is not allowed. Yeah. So that's another reason we have to be careful to not touch the dog on Shabbat, to not put it on ourselves, or to move him with our hands, unless you have a leash. Yeah.
If you have to feed and look after it, and it touches you.
If it touches you. That's not your problem. But if you go and you touch it, that's a muktzeh on Shabbat. No, you have to take care of him. We just said you have to take care of him. If you know that you can't take care of them, of the dog, don't have a dog. You have to be very sensitive to him. But nothing's gonna happen to the dog if you're not gonna put it on you. Okay, it doesn't need it. Take a leash and go outside with him. But you don't have to play with him on Shabbat. Take him, touch him, hug him, and all those different types of stuff. Regarding brachot, we said brachot again. If you touch the dog, make sure you wash your hands before. Yeah.
What happens to a Asher Yatzar
Asher Yatzar for what?
after you touch a dog?
Washroom.
But he's not Tumah.
Doesn't matter. No. We don't say because of Tumah. Asher Yatzar, it's a blessing. We thank Hashem that we just had a surgery. we just had something unbelievable happening in our body, and we want to thank Hashem for that, for everything happening the right way. That's not because of that. Okay, any questions? Yeah.
Dog is not tumah.
Again, dog has a certain tum'ah. That's why we would not suggest, to have the dog. We touch the dog, of course, when you do blessings, when you do stuff like that. So you should stay away. But you are allowed to have the dog in your house. You are allowed to raise a dog, especially if you have the reason we said. It is okay. If you don't have a good reason to have a dog, it's better to not have a dog. One, because there is a certain tumah in the dog. Second, it's because it's a big responsibility, and Chas v'Shalom, you can cause damage to the dog by not taking care of him the right way. Yeah. Yeah, he's asking if someone, Chas v'Shalom, was not behaving well were not treating well animals, how can he fix that sin? It's a good question. Usually, when you regret and you accept on yourself to not do something, that's the first level of tshuva. So that's the first, to regret on what you did. Yeah, kids sometimes, I remember I lived in Israel, and with all the friends, sometimes, bored kids, they go outside and, throw stones on dogs, on cats and stuff like that. You want to fix it. By the way, stone, it's called even in Hebrew. Even, Aleph, Bet, Nun. Kelev, if we're going to take the numerical value of Kelev, is 52. 52 is Kelev. And Even is 53. A stone is 53. Dogs, they are afraid of one thing, of stones. If you throw a stone on a dog, he's really afraid of it. So they say, why the dog is afraid of stone? Because the stone and the numerical value is one more than the numerical value of a dog. But if you did such a thing and you wanna fix it, so you regret, you accept on yourself to not do it anymore, and if you can somehow it's either organize a lecture that talks about Tzar Ba'alei Chaim, how to treat animals according to Halakha. If you organize or sponsor a certain lecture, you let other people know about how it's important, or you give money for publishing a book that talk about this mitzvah or stuff like that. This is fixing that sin for sure, because now whatever you did caused you to help other people to not do that. and that's the biggest tshuva. That's the biggest fixing you can do in that place. Yeah.
I have two questions. Number one, how do we know that dogs remember what they were reincarnated?
Not just dogs, it's every animal.
Okay,
Rabbi Eliyahu Cohen from Izmir, he says that it's written in the books of Kabbalah. And sometimes I can tell you even a story that happened. You remember in the beginning of the lecture we said that there's certain people that they know the language of animals. There was a story in 500 years ago in Tzfat that Arizal with all his 10 students, they were studying Kabalah together, and suddenly one goat came into the room and came to the table of the teacher, of the rabbi, and put the two hands on the table and were talking to the rabbi. Now the rabbi knew the language, so then all the students were like, what's happening here? Rabbi, you have to tell us what the goat said. And the Rizal says, this goat was that person that lived in our neighborhood, and he passed away, and he reincarnated in a goat. And the reason he reincarnated in a goat is because when he had intimacy with his wife one time, he did it not in a proper way. He did something that is not allowed according to the Torah. And because he did that, he caused his son that was born from that intimacy, he caused the son to have epilepsy. Because we know one of the reasons people have epilepsy is because the mother and the father does it in a certain way that is not allowed to Halakha. I don't want to explain all the details here, and because he caused his son to have this disease for the rest of his life, he needed to fix it because he didn't regret on that. He didn't fix that sin when he was alive. He needed to fix it, and he was reincarnated in a goat, and they gave him permission to come to me. He asked me if I can hire a shochet, a slaughterer, to slaughter him according to Halakha, and then we all, after we study Torah, we will eat him and will elevate his soul. And that's what they did.
Another question.
So you see that the animals know.
Can
Okay?
you tell a couple words about cats as a pet?
I know.
Just couple.
I know. When I did this lecture, I sent to the guy that helps me publish the shiurim. I said that I'm gonna speak about pets and dogs. But really, after that, I said the whole class is gonna be about dogs. So I don't know if to remove the pets or to not remove the pets. So again, there's a lot of things to talk about different. Every pet has its own lecture. Cats, for example, they have a certain power. They have also certain type of impurity, but it's different than dogs. For example, if a cat eats something and you eat from the same thing, you're gonna lose your memory. Even if you don't eat from the place the cat bite, right? Let's say you have a cheese and the cat bite the cheese from one side, and then you cut that side and you add the other piece of the cheese, it's gonna cause damage in the memory. Why? The cat has a certain power that cause it. But we need to separate shiur about those
I
things.
used to have a cat, and my daughter was telling me my car was far away before I'm coming home, and the cat was already waiting to home.
Yeah, the cats has a lot of powers, different things. Yeah. Ken.
Question. So, do Kohanim have a certain way of treating dogs? Number one.
Kohanim.
Like if you're a Kohen.
Okay.
And the second one, if you want to dispose of the dog, what's the best way to do that?
What's it
To
dispose?
get rid of the dog, to give him away.
Yeah. So, again, if you can give it away to a place that you know that they're gonna take care of him, so that's maybe the best way to do it. If the dog is sick and can cause chas v'shalom sickness to others, for sure you have to somehow put him asleep, because that's a danger. It all depends on the situation. But yeah, give it to the place that you know that they're gonna.
Adoption center.
What?
It's an adoption center that we go.
Yeah, it's always better it's always better to not kill the dog yourself. Give it to the specialist, and they will decide what to do with this. And Kohanim, that's right, they have a little bit more spiritual power than the other people, if they deserve it, of course. A Kohen cannot behave as a Kohen and lose his Kohanut. But if he is a good Kohen, he doesn't have any differences between with any other Jew.
Thank you.
Not something that I know about. Yeah.
We have 10 minutes. Want to do it?
At this time I did Arvit. Last time there was a miracle, but this time I did Arvit. I can stay if you want.
I have a question. Does the dog or the pet, do they know our reincarnation? Do they know our neshama? Like, how do they, like, they know their own?
Yeah, they know their own. I'm not sure if they know something about ourselves. Most likely not. But they do know if you can help them in a certain way. Like the story that I just told you.
So we
That
can-
they know who can help them elevate themselves, or let's say, you're gonna see that dogs usually they will want to be close to people that are holy because they get some blessings, they get some maybe elevation even, when they do bracha or something like that, they can somehow help the dog to finish his mission.
So they attach themselves to people who are more spiritual?
They can. It's a possibility. If the dog has a certain reincarnation of a human being, so it's a possibility that he will do that, or he will go close to the people he know. So a lot of time, when someone reincarnates in an animal, he will try somehow to, and Hashem will do it somehow that he will come to the family, to his family. Sometimes that also happened. And I can tell you a lot of stories that happened. There was one story, maybe I'll tell you, that's a very famous one, with Rav Kaduri that happened maybe 20 years ago. And in Israel, I heard it from the guy that was there. And in Yeshivat Machane Israel in Jerusalem, Rav Kaduri once, he lives beside that place. And this yeshiva, it's yeshiva of Baalei Tshuva, people that came back to Judaism. And it's a big yeshiva. And they had something happening every Shabbat, they do Kiddush. And half of the yeshiva goes home to their parents, and half of the yeshiva stay. That's the rules. And every Kiddush that they did in the yeshiva, they saw a cat coming. And mamash listening to the Kiddush every Friday. The cat coming only on Friday in the time of Kiddush, listen to the Kiddush, and after the Kiddush goes away. Every Friday. So they thought this is something like very interesting. They went to the Mekubal, to the Kabbalist, Rav Kaduri. He was alive back then. And he told them, you know what, I'm going to come to your yeshiva one Friday, and we're going to see what's happening there. And he came one Friday, and he asked the Rosh Yeshiva to call all the boys to not go home that Shabbat that he's coming. That all the boys of the yeshiva should be in the yeshiva. And Rav Kaduri did the Kiddush, and the cat came, as usual. And when he started to say the Kiddush, the cat started to, he was doing different kind of kavanot, of intentions, and the cat was circling the whole place, over and over and over, mamash, very fast, running. The whole time of Kiddush. And then Rav Kaduri was saying Dvar Torah, mamash 5 or 3 minutes of something in Torah, a lecture, and the cat still circling the place. And then he says, every person that someone from his relative passed away in his life, please stand and say Kaddish. And they all stand, they say Kaddish after the Torah lesson that Rav Kaduri gave in the Kiddush. And after they finished the Kaddish, the cat just fell on the floor and passed away. Died. And then he asked every person that said Kaddish to come to the room to speak privately to the rabbi. And then he found out that one of the people there, one of the boys, his father passed away, and he was really angry at his father. He didn't like him, and he even didn't say Kaddish on him because he was so angry at his father. Never. So Rav Kaduri proved him that this cat was a reincarnation of his father. And he had a problem with Kiddush, that's why he was coming on Kiddush, and was trying to give you a hint that he needs you. But they didn't give him they didn't allow in Shamayim. So all the story happened with Rav Kaduri to tell him that that's what happened, and that's the first time he did Kaddish on him. That's why the cat died, and elevate the soul. So even stuff like that can happen, you know.